Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. If you like the video today, please comment and share it as I highlight my college football team, first team defense. So if you like the video today, please comment and share it here on 100 Yards of Football. And I'm your host, Vincent Turner. College football is upon us. And it starts on September 28th. August the 28th. Getting a little ahead of myself. And I love this side of the ball, defense. It's my first team college football All-American team. And there's some stars on this side of the ball. Yes, Lord, have mercy. When you think about the great game of college football, and I'm going to go back to the years when I grew up, some of the players that made first team defense with the AP voting, with the UPI, with all these sports magazines, I got to go back to some of the great players that made the first team, like Dick Butkus when he was at Illinois, Simeon Rice when he was at Illinois, Leroy Jordan when he was at Alabama, Reggie White when he was at Tennessee, the great Kenny Easley when he was at UCLA, Ronnie Lott, oh my God, USC, and a guy that's on our staff here at 100 Yards Football that played on one of the greatest defensive teams ever in 1979. That put Florida State on the map, Mr. Bobby Butler. That's when I think about defense and I think about first team All-Americans. But 2021 is going to be special, so let me start. I'm going to start with my defensive ends. The guy that makes first team defensive end on my list is Kayvon Thibodeau out of the University of Oregon. Man, size, speed. 77 tackles career-wise, 12 sacks, 23.5 tackles for loss. When you look at that great Oregon tradition that's put out great defensive players, Mike Walter, Super Bowl champion, Kenny Rowe, my man, Mr. Naga, the defensive tackle for the Baltimore Ravens, Dave Wilcox, another great San Francisco 49er, and a young man that's doing his thing with the Indianapolis coach, DeForest Buckner. The other guy that makes the other side of the ball, my other defensive end, is Zach Harrison out of Ohio State. So far in his career, 38 tackles, 5.5 sacks. But I think he's going to ascend in his junior year. And when you look at that position at Ohio State, you got the Boza brothers that done pretty well. Yes, sir, Nick and Joey. Then you got Jim Steelwagon back in 1968. You got Alonzo Spellman. You got the late, great Will Smith on the 2002 National Championship team. I think Mr. Harrison is going to represent our first team defense here on 100 Yards of Football. Now at the D tackle position, I got to go home locally. Metro Atlanta, down the road in Athens. My man, Mr. Jordan Davis. He's only got 5 sacks for his career. He's only got 6.5 tackles for loss. But if he would have came out last year, he would have been a bona fide first-round pick. I nicknamed him the Brick Wall. And you know what I'm talking about if you watch his game film. But he's carrying on that tradition. Bill Stanfield, Richard Seymour, Marcus Stroud. Help me, brother. And it reminds me of a guy that played next to Reggie White with the Green Bay Packers, Gilbert Brown. Jordan Davis is going to be that guy at the defensive tackle position for Georgia. Down the road in Clemson, Brian Breezy. He might be the best defensive tackles came on the scene as a freshman that I've seen. Last year, 23 tackles, 4 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss. Boy, Dabo Swinney has got a special one. You think about Mr. Breezy, you got to put him in the mind of the Perry brothers, William and Michael. And then he's got to represent, because there was another All-American that was pretty well at Clemson by the name of Chester McLaughlin. Mr. Breezy is that warrior. Warrior, come out to play. Now my linebackers. On anybody's list coming in 2021, you have to be insane if you don't have any players from the University of Alabama on this list. I'm sorry, as the great Mark Bass say. So one of my linebackers, because I have 3, I got to start with Christian Harris, the University of Alabama, 6'2", 232 pounds. Took his game to another level last year as a sophomore. 79 tackles. And when you look at the inside linebacker position, you got to put Mr. Harris in that traditional Woodrow Lowe, Leroy Jordan, Barry Krause, C.J. Mosley, Super Bowl champion Dante Hightower. Mr. Harris is in the same skill level as those gentlemen at the University of Alabama. Roll Tide. The other linebacker, I call him college football status of the college football Rambo. Mr. Mike Rose out of Iowa State, 6'4", 250, with a lot of pain. Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year last year. 99 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 10.5 tackles for loss, 5 interceptions in 12 games. And you know what's so great about him? He's a very, very excellent tackle. That's why I call him the college football Rambo. And you know what? At Iowa State, he's going to be the best linebacker that's came out of there since 1973 when the great late Matt Blair came out of there and played with the Minnesota Vikings. Mike Rose is that good. Now, the other linebacker position. Like I say, you'll be insane if you don't have an Alabama linebacker on this list. I already have one in Christian Harris. I could not go by and not put this gentleman on the list. Started as a true freshman. A guy that has some of his videos on our platform and does an outstanding job. I consider him the best defensive coordinator in the state of Georgia at the high school level. My man, Mr. Kevin Bull Jones. He knows this young man personally. And the guy that makes my first team linebacker to round out my defense is Will Anderson out of Dutchtown High School, Hampton, Georgia, the nickname the Terminator. Came on as a true freshman, started from day one. 7 sacks, 10.5 tackles for loss. And when you look at the size, the speed, the explosion off the edge, you got to say a little bit of Derek Thomas, a little bit of Cornelius Bennett. He rounds out my linebacker position. Now my secondary. 2 special players at the cornerback positions. My first cornerback. All I'm going to say is this right now. Listen, LSU. Mr. Derek Stingley. And his father was a pretty good player to the great Darryl Stingley. They played with the New England Patriots. Much love to him. Well, this is his grandson who arrives on my list as my first team cornerback on my first team All-American defense. Mr. Stingley, his freshman year came on the scene. 6 INT, 61. Let me get it correct. He had, I believe, 15 pass breakups as a true freshman. Last year, he only had 5 because they stayed away from him. But when you look at LSU, you got to consider them DBU now. Tre'Davious White, the Honey Badger, Patrick Peterson, Morris Claiborne, Jerry Stovall. Oh, my God, Tommy Casanova. Mr. Derek Stingley is in that class right there. Now, my other cornerback. I'm finna shock the world here because a lot of people haven't heard of this guy. But I guarantee you, when you watch him play in 2021, you're going to understand why Vincent Turner, Mr. Football, put him on my list as one of my first team corners. He goes by the name of Derek Cantine out of Georgia Southern by way of Evans, Georgia, a suburb of Augusta where they played the Masters. This young man, 5'11", 195, the nickname Baller. He's a baller. Last year, 6 interceptions, 10 pass breakups, 48 tackles. He's one of maybe the best man-to-man coverage guy in the country. And when you look at him, his game is like, let me get myself together. Alfred Dixon, Frank Meadowfield, Mike Richardson on the Super Bowl champion Chicago Bears, Rob Woodson, Ricky Dixon, and Darren Henley, and Mike Haynes and Lester Hayes. He's got that type of man and coverage skills. Derek Cantine, Evans, Georgia, by the way of Georgia Southern. It's my other cornerback. Now at the safety position, another local guy. Unfortunately, he doesn't play for the University of Georgia. He took his talents to South Bend and was a star from day one. Marist High School, 6'4", 220. His name is Kyle Hamilton. As a freshman, he had 41 tackles, 4 INTs. Last year, He took his tackle game up, 63 tackles. He had 1 INT. He's great against the run. He's one of the best ball hawk safeties that came through college football. When you look at the Notre Dame tradition at the defensive back position, you got to say Luther Bradley, 1977, Dave Duerson, 1982, Todd Light, 1989, Clarence Ellis, 1971. And you know what? When you look at Mr. Hamilton, he puts me in the mind of a gentleman that came on the scene in 1977 in UCLA out of Chesapeake, Virginia, by the name of Kenny Easley, that went on and had a great career with the Seattle Seahawks. That's the range and ability that Mr. Hamilton has. Mr. Kenny Easley, that's why he's one of my first team safeties. And to round out my college football All-American first team at the defensive side, he comes from a smart school up there outside of Chicago. The school is known for academics. And you know he's got to be smart to think they're on the field. My man, Brandon Joseph, out of Northwestern is my other safety. 6'1", 192. One of the best hitters in college football last year. Had 53 tackles. Man. Go back and look at the Michigan State game. He was a man among boys. Had 6 interceptions last year. And he's got a nose for the football. And when you look at all the great safeties that's made first team All-American in the years, he's kind of like Fred Marion out of Miami. He's got that Johnny Johnson. When I was at the University of Arkansas, Johnny Johnson played at Texas. He was an outstanding safety. Then he's got that speed a little bit like Louis Oliver that played at Florida. Brandon Joseph is a special package. And you know what? I heard he's good in the books too. So he makes my other first team safety here on my first team All-American defense here at 100 Yards of Football. So let me go over the list again. My defensive ends are Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon. My man Mr. Zach Harrison out of Ohio State. My defensive tackles are Jordan State, Go Dogs, out of University of Georgia. Mr. Brian Breezy out of Clemson University. My linebackers are Christian Harris out of Alabama, Roll Tide. Followed by Mr. William Anderson, Roll Tide out of Alabama. Mike Rose out of Iowa State, the college football Rambo. In my secondary, at corner, LSU, Mr. Derek Stingley. And listen for this name. He might be the best football pound for pound on the defensive side of college football, Mr. Derek Canteen out of Georgia Southern. Hanford Dixon and Frank Minifield all wrapped up in one. In my safeties, Kyle Hamilton out of Marist here in Metro Atlanta by way of Notre Dame. And rounding out my first team college football All-American defense is Mr. Brandon Joseph out of Northwestern. So if you like the video today, please come in and share it. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. And let me give special thanks to the gentleman that helped me put this list together. First of all, our gentleman who does an outstanding job every Wednesday here on the videos, my producer, Mr. Logan Landers out of Douglasville, Georgia, by way of Alexander High School. My man, Jeremiah Long, who helped me with the list. He was a former All-American at the cornerback position. My man, Mr. Bobby Butler out of Florida State, 12-year veteran with the Atlanta Falcons, and the best high school football coach in all the Metro Atlanta. He's the defensive coordinator over in North Atlanta, Mr. Kevin Jones. This is our college football team, All-American defense, first team. So if you like the video, please come in and share it. It's just like, when I look at this defense, I'm going to go back and end it with this. A great band came out of Indianapolis, Indiana in the 60s, and they was one of my favorite bands when I was growing up. And they had a song like this. I'm climbing up the ladder. I'm climbing. And I'm pushing. The great band, the Isley Brothers. Thank you. That's what I think about when I see this first team defense, because they got some ballers and they got some warriors. Warriors come out to play. Have a blessed weekend. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. Thank you for watching 100 Yards.